right? So that chocolate cake, right, with the bad fat, stimulant, caffeine in it, all that stuff, you know, high glycemic index, the minute it goes past my lips, there's very different things turned on, different hormones being signaled and all kinds of stuff, versus a nice plate, you know, of that lovely brown rice pilaf, maybe some steamed veggies, and a salmon, poached salmon or chicken fillet or something like that. So the other one, it's tempting, but we'll find how we do antidotes against negative foods. And there are ways you can sort of protect yourself if you're going to do that. So we teach that as well. So we're going into the proactive health model where we look at early signs of dysfunction and how to fix ourselves before we're really broken, where we then have to dip into the reactive medical model where fix me now, please, rescue me now. So there's a real continuum that we can play in. So having said that, we're going to look at some information that will apply first and foremost to osteoarthritis, and then we're going to look at the other type of arthritis, right, where we've got a whole number of conditions, including lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and all kinds of associated things that are of a more immune upregulation type. So there's a whole range. So off we go. We're going to look at the impact of the previous medical model, which we call allopathic medicine, right, where we generally look for stopping symptoms through drugs that are inhibitors or blockers. And they are very good at inhibiting and blocking very specific things. And that's how drug companies will get their patent. They own a biochemical pathway. They own a very specific reaction. It's a light switch. It's all or nothing. So now, when we look at using specific nutraceuticals and nutrients, they're not all or nothing. They are a dimmer switch. They are modulators of a response in the body. They're gentler and often work very, very well. You would be quite impressed. But notice that, you know, doing what we've always done and expecting a different result is what? The definition of insanity, right? That's the sign I put on my fridge when I was so unwell, and the traditional interventions were not helping. And this went on for years, right, of various surgeries and various, you know, constant antibiotic regimens and anti-inflammatories. I was not getting better. And so now realize that you're not alone, because many, many people increase their use of pharmaceutical intervention. Not that it's wrong, but it's not the only option. Okay, I mean, it's a huge, of course, it's not free health care, right? We might say it's a free sickness care model if we step back and look at it, because it's certainly not totally working, and our tax dollars cover it to a great extent. And of course, our friends south of the border have to often pay out of pocket. So it's more obvious to them the true cost of that health care. Let's start with osteoarthritis. So approximately 62% of the population suffers from some degree, right? So you are not alone when you're feeling the aches. This is actually North America. Yeah, these would be, now, very interesting, because different groups across the globe have different health statistics, right? So that's why we look at lifestyle. It's not just genetics, but it's also lifestyle. So osteoarthritis accounts for more than half of the hip replacements and 85% of the knee replacements in the U.S. These are stats that we, you know, in the U.S., of course, larger population, but we are very similar in ours in Canada. Medical costs of osteoarthritis are estimated from $15.5 billion to $28.6 billion. That's probably understated, right? It's probably a lot worse. And the quality of life, of course, is a big issue. And of course, 80% of those that are diagnosed will then be going through the option of pharmaceuticals, right? Not realizing there are other ways you could look at the problem. And people, by the time they're in their 60s, they'll have some level of osteoarthritis. And not all of them will be aware, as you know, and then you go to your doctor and suddenly, oh my goodness, there it is. And of course, if you don't change something, it's going to get worse. I'm not going to go into detail on the medications, but you know, obviously there's a range of different drugs according to the severity, and they don't come without some complications. They do have a positive impact, but at the same time, there are some problems. After a certain level, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories will not work anymore, and the condition is worsening. Right? We have side effects that are anything over the counter, as well as what the doctors are able to offer from their current toolbox. Are inhibitors that we know they do not just inhibit the enzyme that's causing the degradation of the joint, but they're inhibiting that same enzyme acting in different roles in different tissue, primarily in the gastrointestinal surface. That's shut down as well. So all of a sudden we have poor repair of the gastrointestinal lining, and we have erosion and pain and damage, ulceration, bleeding, renal insufficiency, so it affects the kidneys, and various blood disorders. We see a lot of blood clotting, platelets sticking with these drugs, various things like that. The COX-2 inhibitors were thought to be a phenomenal sort of discovery, but they, of course, we've heard the Vioxx story, Vioxx being taken off the market because it causes cardiovascular side effects. That same enzyme has different functions in different tissue, and it's all shut off. So, and in neuropathic pain, where we have nerve pain and damage, we don't even know if those non-steroidal anti-inflammatories are really helping. And it is a pretty big thing, 15th leading cause of death. I mean, it's not just a little inconvenience, it's quite profound. Many hospitalizations occur, and it's intimately tied to these side effects. And intestinal injury, this is what got me when I was reviewing the literature. As soon as 72 hours of use, you already see erosion of the gut lining. So imagine those who have to use it in an ongoing daily fashion. Now, this speaks volumes. When we look at statistics that determine, how many deaths do we have? Okay, this is US statistics. When you realize that the toxicity from non-steroidal anti-inflammatories is equal to that of AIDS, the loss of life due to AIDS, why don't we have various ribbon campaigns and awareness raising that says that? I mean, this is huge. This is huge. This is not just a small blip. This is a very big concern. Now, we're going to be speaking about a very interesting discovery that was made from, believe it or not, the hops plant. We always get a lot of chuckles about that, but the hops plant is a storehouse of incredible molecules, and of course it depends what form of hops and where it's grown. It's all very, very specific, but there are specific compounds that can be isolated that have unbelievable impact when you do a lot of the clinical testing. So it's just, the trade name is Meta 050, and lo and behold, the testing, after years and years of testing and development, it's a natural product, completely natural, and it's safer than all the other both natural and pharmaceutical options. So this therapeutic index indicates that most of in the toolbox, the drugs that would be available to help with the pain are going to have a negative impact on the gastrointestinal system and erosion of the organs. Now, this just simply shows that they were testing the dosage that would be effective, and they found that at 3 tablets a day, this actually was a more effective regimen than Celebrex is currently, and that seems to be one of the few options available to people today. So it maintains activity, and approximately every 6 hours one would take another dose, and it's very effective in maintaining pain and inflammation at bay. There are many, many clinical studies. This thing was tested with the most sophisticated tests that normally are only seen in the pharmaceutical sector. Huge reduction, 40% in one person, 50% in another, in just 8 weeks.